Hello everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel. So excited to talk about some tips for your cards that you can use to step it up a bit. Very simple techniques. We're not going to get to that until later on the video, around 6:07 mark, but I will walk through you what I'm using and do a little coloring with you today. So I pulled out this Bouquet Bliss from Whimsy Stamps. This paper is so fun. I'm showing you it all because you just have to see it. But it's so fun and it's really thick and sturdy. Loved it. Oh my goodness. So I didn't know which one to choose. I had a difficult time, but I spared you that and I did that off camera. But just showing you through here, just some of these really fun bouquet looks. There is one with this one with the hearts. Oh, stop it. So cute. And then those are the rest. Okay, so I decided that I wanted to incorporate this paper in some way, but I also wanted to use this background that I'm showing you that I made previously. Now later on in the video, you'll see I put a little clip in there because that is from a previous video, so you can check that out if you want. When you have rubber stamps and you need to cut them apart, it is best to cut them right up against as close as you can to the image. So you don't have that extra stuff hanging around to gather ink, like corners and things like that. So just be aware of that. This is where I go in and kind of clip off all those corners. And it's as easy as that. And my Tim Holtz scissors worked just fine for that. So I am going to stamp out my image in some Lawn Fawn alcohol marker ink, friendly ink. And I'm going to get that nice and ready to go. I had to ink it up a few times, I think 3 or 4 times, because it was a new stamp. Also, I think my ink pad is getting dry, so, you know, I had to do that a few times. So I get that done. Remember, if you're using a Stampin' Positioner like this, then you'll take out that foam on the bottom when you're using rubber stamps. So if you tried to do that with that piece in there, you're going to notice it's kind of wonky, so that's why. So here I give you options. Go to 6:07 to skip the coloring, also where we start talking about some tips for your cards. I wanted to leave the coloring in here because that's been requested before. I don't do it in real time, so it is sped up quite a bit. But I wanted to show and talk about the markers I'm using, which is Ohuhu. So these are the 120 set Ohuhu brush tip markers, but in that 120 set, I also added the skin tones and the pastels. And so what I've done is I have finished the color chart for the entire set. So like I said, the 120 plus the skin tones plus the pastels. And there's only about 5 or 6 repeated markers that go from the 120 and the skin tones. They kind of cross over a little bit. Other than that, they're all brand new markers. They're not included in the 120 set. So I will link all of that information below if you're interested in purchasing the markers, if you're interested in heading over to my Etsy shop to get the chart. That will all be below. The chart took me a lot longer than I had anticipated. That's why I didn't pull it out sooner. So, but it is done, and it's basically a chart that is in blendable order. It's not giving you specifically like use these 3 blends together. That's something I'm working on for the future, but it is from darkest to lightest in each color family, and you can kind of see which ones go together. So once you print it out and you color swatch it, you'll be able to see your markers. You'll get the edited version, the editable. Oh my God, no one's eating this thing. Come on, Mary. The editable version, which is the Excel. That means that if any of the colors look a little different on your chart, or you're using different paper than me, then you're going to be able to change up those numbers on the Excel sheet and then reprint it and do it that way. So also I recommend that you use the paper that you will be coloring most on, because then you'll get your truest color. And one last little tip about that is I also swipe the marker twice on each of the squares when I'm color swatching. Doesn't sound too important, but if you miss the spot and you have to go back on one of them, then that might be, and you've done one swipe on all the other squares, it might throw off the colors. That's just so minor, but anyway, just throwing it in. So why am I pushing these Ohuhu markers? Because they're awesome. I love them. They are, I've used Copics briefly, and I have to say they are the most comparable. They just don't make it easy to get coloring. That's the thing. But here's the thing though, the price difference between the two, I will take the time to swatch out these markers and save myself hundreds and hundreds of dollars. There's also, Ohuhu, I think I'll have to check on the refill situation if that's a thing. But yeah, I mean, I recommend them. I think it's a fantastic set to have, even if unless you're a professional artist that needs, all of that. Like, I say this is perfect for what we do. So yeah, all right. So I'm finishing up the coloring here. This little penguin is just about the cutest thing ever. Now, remember when you stamp out stuff, you don't always have to keep it exactly the way it is. So I'm actually going to cut this guy out without the confetti. All right, so I'm going to fussy cut. Then tip number 1 is you want to outline your fussy cutting images. What this does is it really cleans up the look of that image. You can't even tell that it was cut out by hand. It really works. So try that. And I use this Memento marker because it's alcohol ink friendly, but you don't have to. But that's the one I choose. So here's the background that I'm going to use. I made this in my 10 craft hacks video. So I will link that at the end of this video and below so you can check that out. I go over a lot of different hacks and tips and tricks. So that's where I made this background. And so I'm going to use it for this card. Okay, so we're going to start putting this card together. I'm going to heat emboss this sentiment. This is from the Penguin set, and it says happy birthday. So I'm going to stamp that out in some scrapbook.com sticky embossing ink. And then I'm going to use some ultra fine, I think this is white embossing powder. And so that is going to, give that really raised, pretty look on your black cardstock. One of my favorite techniques to use, and I love this font. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, the second tip I have for you is bubble cut your sentiments. This adds such a super fun element to your sentiments that you have instead of just a regular rectangle or square or something like that. And it really looks like it had its own die. It's extremely forgiving. And you can just kind of squiggly yourself around the letters. You don't even have to be perfect. And I really, really love it. So bubble cut your sentiments. Give that a try. That's super fun. I'm going to pull out my Accent Opaque 100-pound cardstock here. This is a very affordable cardstock that I use for everything. I use it for alcohol marker coloring. I use it for ink blending, all the things. Okay, tip number 3. Do something a little bit different to your card base and your card that is simple and easy. And I use this corner rounder, and it just adds a different element to your card. So very simple. These are just one little thing that you can do to kind of change up a look of the card. I did cut this down as you saw me previously, so I have a little white border around that. So I'm loving that. And then I realized that the bouquet kind of got lost on my background, but I still wanted it shown. And so I decided to actually have I think the bouquet got a little lost behind my guy, but I wanted to show it. So I put that together with some pink glitter cardstock. And all of my colors I'm trying to get to, match and just kind of complement one another. So I do that. And then I'm going to place down my little birthday penguin. And he's going to go right, but he's going to get popped up. And then I'm going to pull out this large happy die right here, which that font is so fun. And can I tell you, I love that it's all one die. I don't have to mess around with different letters. So we moved right into tip number 4. And this is mix your sentiments. So you don't always have to have the same fonts or matchy dies. You can mix your sentiments to give it another fun look. Tip number 5, we're going to add white highlights. This is something that I think scares some people away, but no need. Get your white pen out and just have fun with it. Put it anywhere. No one's really going to stop and stare at the card and say, that's not where the light would reflect. I promise. If they do, I'm concerned. So give that a try. It's a lot of fun. I was using an Arteza gel pen right there. Love it. It's a great one. Now, tip number 6 is the final one, which is probably nothing new. Probably none of these tips are new to any of you. But tip number 6 is to embellish. Embellish your cards. This is what makes them stand out from a store-bought card. This card is not perfect, nor does anything that you make need to be. But the embellishment is so much fun. So here I chose glitter from Stickles. And I love to use Stickles when I am filling in little spaces or just adding accent pieces to my design. His little hat has glitter and his the box, so it just adds a really fun element. So that's the finished card today. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. If you want to check out any of the things I use, they'll be listed below in the description. Also, click on that Linktree link so we can connect in other social media platforms. And there's also a link below to my Amazon store where I have all of my favorite money-saving craft supplies listed in one place. So I was really happy to get that up and running. Check it out. And yeah, I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.